Yeah.
Hi, welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. I'm Ross Benjamin, also joined, as always, by my co-host Chip Chirimbes out of Las Vegas, Nevada. I would like to wish everybody a happy Merry Christmas from both of us, and I hope you have a happy holiday season and a safe one as well. Chip,
Yes.
you got the red tie on. I got the red shirt. Boy, we're Christmassy today. Look at that tie. Wow. Anyway.
And Santa playing golf, which is always a great thing to do on Christmas Day.
We did pretty good with our NBA free picks yesterday. Today's going to be another NBA free pick segment. There's no games scheduled in the NBA today, but there are several scheduled for tomorrow. And we're going to touch upon those games. And at the end of the podcast, we are going to give each of us is going to give out an NBA free pick for Christmas Day. So stay tuned for that. We won't keep you too long, because I know it's the holiday season. You got things to do, and we certainly do as well. So let's get right to it, Chip. Yesterday, we went 2-0 with our sides. Atlanta came through with flying colors for me. And then you had the Phoenix Suns, who were a winner as well, -1. They win by 4 over Dallas. You did miss on the total, but still, we were 2-1. And, again, we just keep producing these free pick winners for you folks. And, if you're looking for guys that are going to pronounce every name correctly, are going to know every college basketball player by name, you got the wrong guys. You could tune into Sports Center or any fantasy sports betting show, and I'm sure those gentlemen will accommodate you. Our job is to beat the number. And folks, I can't emphasize this enough, and I know that Chipper echoes my sentiments when I say weather, player injuries, players on both sides of the ball, they're all factored into the line. When you come across and make comments like, did you know that this guy was hurt? Did you know that this guy averages 20 points a game? I don't care. Do you think you know that? You don't think the bookmaker knows that as well? Come on. Anyway, let's move on to more positive stuff, Chip.
Okay, but
all right, let's start with the game tomorrow between the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat. That game will be played in Miami, 12 p.m. Eastern time start. Chipper, Miami comes off that loss to Orlando yesterday as a 4.5-point road favorite. I think I cashed in on that. I believe you did as well with Orlando. And New Orleans is off an impressive away dog straight up win against Denver, which they won going away. I don't know. Looks like an inviting spot for the Heat for me after a loss, and with New Orleans coming off that upset win.
Well, what you're saying has a lot of credence to it. Miami's 36-15-1 after a straight up loss. That's against a number, of course. So they have that, great coaching, great bounce back recovery abilities. New Orleans is only 2-8 at Miami in their last 10. Now, this is a different time and different teams. This New Orleans teams, of course, has had big changes. They have big young stars now on the team, but they also are 17-8 against the points after a loss. So, after a win. So this New Orleans team to me is a little bit an enigma. They got rid of some people. They have that big star from North Carolina. And how do you pronounce his name?
Anyway, and the other thing to consider here, again, it was a Miami team was coming off the going all the way to the NBA Finals, and like the Lakers, very short rest, very short off season, I should say, and it's unprecedented. Where the NBA has never had this quick a turnaround. So, again, if you don't think that has any effect on players, especially players that are coming off success. And let's face it, Miami didn't win the world championship, okay, but they carried the Lakers to 6 games, and nobody expected Miami to get to the NBA Finals last year, Chip. But I think they're going to show some resiliency here, in my opinion, and bounce back strong in this contest.
I think Miami's supposed to be the side off their loss to Orlando opening game. It was Orlando, right?
Yes.
And New Orleans comes with the win. on the road on the road, which is in Florida against Toronto. But so they should come back to the pack, and Miami should play. I'm just wondering if Miami's going to cover the number, because I think they're the side, at
I
least
don't
on
even
the.
know if I mentioned it, Chip. They're -5 right now as we
Yeah,
speak. So
yeah, that number seems kind of short to me for a team that was in the NBA Finals. And what are we expecting out of the Pelicans this year? We'll have to wait and see. I think most of the money here is probably going to come with the Heat to look for. The public's probably looking for them to bounce back.
well, the next game, speaking of bouncing back, the Milwaukee Bucks, who finished terribly last year,
Yeah.
in my opinion, anyway, they got by the first series against Orlando. I think they played. Don't quote me on that. They got by their first series and then were quickly eliminated after that. And then they opened the season last night at Boston as a road favorite. They lose the game by 1. The Greek Freak. Let's just call him that because I'm not going to try to pronounce his name
No, I don't either.
since we're under such scrutiny these days. And he missed a key free throw that would have tied the game
Yep.
late. Boston prevailed 122-121. And they're going to be playing the Golden State Warriors, who just looked terrible in their opening game blowout loss at Brooklyn. I don't know, Chip. Milwaukee -9.5 in this game. I mean, you would think Milwaukee would bounce back with a strong effort here against a team they're definitely more talented than from top to bottom. I mean, look, Steph Curry might be the best player on the floor in that game, but as far as overall talent, Milwaukee far exceeds the Warriors in that regard. What's your thoughts here?
Well, I wanted to pick up on what you said about Milwaukee being able to beat up on the little guys. They're 13-6 on the number when they're playing teams that are 40% or worse. So they're playing against bad teams. They seem to perform really well. Their playoff record, I mean, they're like the Baltimore Ravens, aren't they? I mean, they just go into the playoffs with great expectations, the best record, the best running game, or the best whatever, and they just fall short all the time. It's hard to gauge this Golden State team, particularly with Klay Thompson down. And if Curry has any kind of a bad night like he did opening night, they've got no shot. I mean, they were so outmanned against Brooklyn in their opening game. It was silly. They are 7-3 against the number at Milwaukee, but we have to remember, this is a different Golden State team. They don't have anywhere near the talent that they've had. And last year was a horrible year for them, of course. They're 5-2 on the road in their last 7, but I really don't know how much stock to put in that. And I think the most disappointing thing, again, is the fact that Thompson will not be there for the entire year again. And when you have that kind of tandem, those two shooting guards, which I thought they were the best I'd ever seen. I mean, I've never seen two better shooters on any one team. Maybe there have been better guard tandems, if you know what I mean, better guard pairs, but I've never seen better shooters. And it really takes the heart out of this Warrior team. And Damon Green's hurting, and I don't know how you can take the Warriors. I just don't. But we know that the Bucks have a habit of, sleepwalking.
Yeah, I mean, look, that team had like 12 losses going into March last year. And then I believe they went 0-3 straight up in ATS before the NBA took a pause for COVID-19.
Yeah.
And then that continued, not that kind of streak, but their inconsistency of play continued when they went into the bubble. And they weren't real impressive in the playoffs, even in their 5-game win over Orlando. They struggled at times. So we'll see. I mean, again, this is a game I may stay away from because I have to see that I could trust Milwaukee after how they finished last year and what I saw on opening night last night. So,
Yeah,
and the other thing too is you mentioned Draymond Green.
yeah.
I don't know what his status is going into this game. He did not play in that season opener. And
Right.
remember, folks, we're recording 24 hours before game time here. So that's something you may want to check on yourself. I know me and Chip will before we make a pick, if we make a pick on this game. The next game, we're looking at the Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics. This looks like a really good matchup. It shapes up to be a very entertaining game, Chipper. Right now, as we speak, let me check the line on that. I do know the total is 22-28 because I was honing in on that. But I see that, let's see here. Eh, Bear with me a second here, folks. And we got Boston right now is a 2.5 point home underdog against Brooklyn with a total of 228.5 now. This is a pretty good Boston team, right? I mean, based on how they did last year and how far they got into the playoffs. Yet this is their second game, second at home, Chipper, and the second time they're a home underdog.
Yeah, and putting the Celtics in an underdog role is not a profitable thing if you're a visitor. 17-4 is home dogs in the last 21,
Wow.
and 23-8 as underdogs overall. But there's big transition here. Gordon Hayward's gone. They've added some other pieces, and we're going to see just how Boston meshes. They come up with that big win opening day, but Brooklyn. Are they the juggernaut that everyone thinks they are, that the media thinks they are? Without Durant and the additions they have this year, Kyrie Irving, of course, is going to play this season. They're 7-2 as road dogs, but this is a different team now. They're favored on the road here, which is very unusual because the Nets, they've been doormats in the NBA for eons virtually. And, it's a tough spot. I mean, Boston at home is very difficult to beat, and this line is very, very short. I know that the public has got to be enamored with the Nets on this game here, and I'd be afraid to take them considering how well Boston plays at home and how well coached they are. And Boston is a throwback to the type of basketball where that extra pass is always being made, and they're always fundamentally sound. And Brooklyn now, I don't know, they may be a runaway train with the kind of talent they have. And like someone in New York wrote, it says the thing that would clinch the NBA title is if they got James Harden. Well, I tell you, if they got James Harden, I don't even think they get out of the first round of the playoffs. So anyway, really great game.
There's two schools of thought there. People will say, well, if you get James Harden, he's a guy who likes to handle the ball for 13 seconds out of the 24-second clock. But you look at his assist ratio, and it's pretty good. It's not like he doesn't share the ball. Having said that, he's not there now, and Kevin Durant is. And that brings me to this, Chipper. I had a prolonged conversation with another handicapper a couple years ago when Golden State was in the NBA Finals, and one of the games Kevin Durant was not available. And he was giving me an outrageous number. He thought Kevin Durant was worth 6 points against the point spread, or 4 to 6 points. And, maybe it turned out that he was, pretty much right when it came down to it, because I looked at the line with Durant and without Durant, and he was pretty spot on. Having said that, this is a different Nets team now with Durant in the lineup. The guy's a difference maker. One thing I will say, Chipper, these teams played 4 times last year. All 4 of those games went over the total. And this is also a Nets team on opening night that was 15 out of 35 from three-point land, 43%. And Boston went over the total easily. And you know what? The other thing, Boston had 100 field goal attempts in a game against Milwaukee, and that's in regulation time. And usually the average is about 85 to 86 in the NBA. So to go 100, they're playing at an awfully fast pace. And I don't think the Nets will shy away from that. I'm going to take a look at the total in this game when it nears game time, because again, if I'm seeing that, I'm sure a lot of the public's seeing that. But I'm going to look for an excuse to use the total in this game, leaning toward the over. So just my thoughts initially. The Denver Nuggets and the LA Clippers tomorrow night at 10:30 Eastern time. And the Clippers coming off that impressive win over the LA Lakers. Again, the Clippers handled the Lakers really well last year during the regular season. Denver, on the other hand, are coming off a really disappointing loss in their home opener. And Denver, this is also a matchup, Chipper. This is a series that was played last year, a playoff series, in which the Clippers had Denver down 3-1, and the Nuggets stormed back to win the next 3 in decisive fashion. I don't know how much that plays into your decision here, I can't believe that it's not somewhere in the back of the Clippers' mind.
Yeah, well, the Clippers are coming off. I think it was a big win for them. It was a statement win where they beat the Lakers. We had them as our top play opening night. It was our only selection. And the Clippers played not only well against Denver, but for the most part, but are 12-3 on the road in the last 15 outings they've been out. And as road favorites, they just seem to come to play, Ross. They're 36-16 as road favorites. Though in this series, they're only 1-5 the last 6 times they've been favored. You mentioned how Denver took care of them in the playoffs. Denver, surprising defeat opening game, 4-1-1 as home dogs. And overall, they're 10-4 when they've been made underdogs. But there's some other interesting notes about these two teams when you play, because I think of these teams being as high scoring teams, and yet the under's 42-18 in the last 60 Denver games with 2 pushes, and they're 6-2 in the last 8 meetings have gone under. So I think that and 5-1 to the under at Denver. I think maybe that might be the side to go, because there's reasons to be on both these sides, or there's a reason to be against the Clippers, but that road record of theirs is so intimidating, Russ. 36-16, that's a big enough sample. Last 15 is a different sample, though it's a new season, it's a new era. But the Clippers pretty much have the same club they ended the season with last year, along with the Nuggets. So maybe we can use those trends, and they're more applicable, shall we say.
Yeah, you make a good point about the total. As a matter of fact, these teams played to the over in the regular season last year, but when it came playoff time in that 7-game series, Chipper, the under was 5-0-2.
There you
So,
go.
and you're looking at the last 3 games of that series that Denver won. They held the Clippers to 97.3 points scored per game. So, and Denver didn't have a reputation as a good defensive team, but boy, they turned it up at playoff time in that regard. Right. So we'll see. I mean, one of the things to consider too, Chip, is Denver is a very small team by NBA standards, especially their front line. And the Clippers might have their way on the offensive and defensive glass against them, which could be a determining factor. Anyway, what game are we missing here? We're missing
Dallas at the Lakers.
Dallas at the Lakers. Very interesting. I watched that game last night with Dallas and against Phoenix, and it didn't seem like the same Dallas team I saw last postseason. Luka Doncic, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right, is coming off another great game last night, 32 points. But you know what, Chip? He had to do most of it all on his own. Didn't get a lot of support. And he made some comments in terms of what kind of shape he was coming into this year, that he wasn't physically ready, where he needs to be anyway, by NBA standards. And it showed a little bit last night. He looked a little bit fatigued at times in his shooting. Even though he scored 32 points, I don't think he shot the ball awfully well last night. And that's normally a sign of fatigue. And the Lakers, how did he bounce back? Defending champions, can you see them getting out of the gate 0-2? And when you look at this line right now, the Lakers opened at 6. They continue to be at 6, and the total's 227.5. Your thoughts, Chip?
I can see the Lakers opening 0-2. Why not? I just don't know what their motivation is. I think it was one of the reasons. I know it was one of the reasons I played against them opening day. That 7 weeks, they've been off for 7 weeks since the NBA final. And maybe psychologically, they're just not ready to start the grind again. Dallas has been terrible on the road. They're 2-8 in their last 10. The Lakers have been bad overall themselves. They're only 1-5 in their last 6. But, you mentioned about how do you pronounce his name? Doncic?
Doncic.
Yeah. He's virtually a one-man gang. And like we mentioned about Harden, and I'm going to give you another example of a team that has one player that dominated the ball that never won. And we're talking about one of the all-time greatest players in the NBA ever, Oscar Robertson. Oscar Robertson handled the ball. If he could pass the ball into himself, he would from after a basket. And these guys don't win. You have your Westbrooks, and when you got one dominant guy out there, no matter how dominant he is, 5 will always beat 1, particularly in the NBA when you're playing against all pros. Maybe in a college where you have a dominant center or a dominant player, he can take over. But in the NBA, all of these people are professionals. So that's the reason I think Dallas may be struggling. They need Porzingis back.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I mean, he's a one-man gang now, but missing Kristaps Porzingis is a really big deal for them,
Yeah.
right, Chip?
Yeah, I think so. He's an all-around, well-balanced player. He reminds me of a bigger, say,
Kevin Garnett type of guy,
you
a
know,
guy who could hit the perimeter shot. I don't know. I mean, I don't. Kevin Garnett was not a 3-point shooter like this kid is. You
yeah,
know, he's 7'2" and he could hit threes like he's a guard.
he's a great player, no question. And Gordon Hayward was the guy I was thinking about.
Yeah.
They're the same type of player that they're always going to be contributing. Bobby Jones type. They're effective. They're a plus when they're on the court in ways that you don't even know. Maybe setting up a screen or a block or drawing an offensive foul. Those are intangibles that determine winners.
Yep. So let's get to our free picks, Chip. Now that we discussed all 5 games, and
Yep.
I'll start here this time, and then I'll let you finish. Something out of the ordinary. So we got to change it up a little. It's the holidays. Anyway, I'm going to be looking at this Brooklyn and Boston game being played in Boston, and I'm going to hone in on the total here. I am seeing a 228 out there right now. I think this, like I alluded to when we talked about this game, this is going to be a highly entertaining matchup. I think both teams will be willing to push the pace in this game. Like I said, Boston had an astronomical 100 field goal attempts in their opening win over Milwaukee. The Nets shot lights out from 3-point range. They now have Kevin Durant. Kyrie Irving is healthy. They got a good supporting cast, and Boston's not going to shy away from playing. Boston is one of those teams, Chip, that reminds me of they're just a team that could play. I don't know who they remind me of, but a team that could play any style. If you want to play fast tempo, they can. If you want to slow down, they can as well. A lot of teams can't adjust to one or the other. They can. So I like this game to go over the total, Chip. My free play on Christmas Day in the NBA is going to be the Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics to go over the total of 228. And to you, my sir?
Well, I'm going to go against that phenom that came out of, who knows where he came out of? I can't remember anymore anyway. Zion Williamson in New Orleans posted a road victory. Very unusual.
He was from Duke. I know that.
Yeah, Duke. I remember that. They're only 2-8 in their last 10 at Miami. And, Williamson played 29 minutes. He had a great game, but he committed 6 turnovers. I mean, that's a lot of turnovers in only 29 minutes of play, or under 30 as it is. I think Miami has that bounce back, that, as we used to call it, the GRP, great rebound, potential. They seem to bounce back under this coaching regime they have there. When they have a bad outing, when they have a bad game and they get beat, they come back 36-15 in the last 52 with a push. I think that Miami is going to come to play. I mean, Jimmy Butler didn't have such an outstanding opening night, and I expect them at home to really get the best of the Pelicans. The Pelicans are over 500, probably be the only time they'll be over 500 all season long. Williamson is growing. He's becoming one of the great stars in the NBA, future stars, I guess. But the team actually has lost ground, I think, in the off season, as other people were making additions and adding on to, say, attributes and assets. I don't think the Pelicans made any kind of positive move at all. As a matter of fact, they lost who was it, the great point guard they had. So I think that New Orleans may be in for a long season.
Okay, that's a bold prediction. I know that a lot of people will disagree with, but you know what? Chipper's got a history of predicting things to go right when it comes to sports betting, not names, not injuries, not weather, but beating the number. There you have it, folks. Our NBA free picks for Christmas Day. Chip Chirimbes is on the Miami Heat -5 at home against New Orleans. And I have the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets game to go over the total of 228. Until the next time, we will be back tomorrow on Christmas Day early, as we'll preview the NFL betting card. We'll also give you a couple free picks in the NFL. Remember, folks, there's 3 games on Saturday in the NFL, special edition there. Until the next time, once again, from myself and Chip Chirimbes, we'd like to wish each and every one of you a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday season. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Good luck and God bless.